I made my money in the morning on one move and I got off the desk. I don't need to stick around all day to try to catch every piece of every move, let alone every single move that there is, right? Less is more. I find that when I go over all my previous months of trading, the weeks that I trade more are often the weeks where I make less money. So if I can make my money early, I don't need to rely on the trend to continue all afternoon and hope to even make more or potentially get back my profits. Let's look at the textbook setup on NQ this morning on the break of opening range high. But notice how it's not the first break of opening range high. It's pretty small, but buyers clearly in control to start the morning. The 15-minute was clearly bullish. We could take a look at that in a second of drift higher overnight. Didn't even touch the daily view up. That buyers are definitely in control. We have a strong pop at the open, and buyers are defending this New York view up really well. So we have the first break of opening range high, which I never suggest buying. It often doesn't run very far. You can watch that in Futures 2.0 on ASFX TV, and you'll see why I don't want to chase that. We let it pull back. Sellers can't take it here. Buyers defend it nicely with a higher low. Okay, cool. So that X that I drew is not inducement. It wasn't buyers trying to get us to get in just for sellers to step in and wipe us all away. Buyers are actually maintaining that control. So now the second time outside that open range high, now I'm comfortable buying it, right? I've played plenty of videos about this because it's really textbook. We can look at just another random trade from last week on the 9th. Pretty identical of not chasing this first break. Let it pull back, though, take the second break, right? That's an old markup just to compare the two of how simple it is and how much you could just repeat it if you wait for these specific setups, right? So with this one, it's a little bit high of a price. I will give you that. I don't often like ever buying at the highest price possible that day so far, right? Because then I'm relying on it to make new highs after new highs in order for me to win. I often like to trade back to where we've already been today, which is maybe a high of day plus a little bit more, right? But for this thing to work out, I need pure new highs a day every single minute, right? Which not that that can't happen. I just prefer to be trading back to the levels that we've already been at. But I really like the strong momentum on that candle that broke that open range high a second time and just riding that trend. Let's take a look at the 15-minute quickly here. And you'll see what I mean by the overnight price action. Let's throw in the daily view up here and you'll see just all buyers. It was really never really retesting it, even pre-market, London session, Asia session, nothing. Right, we're opening up the day here. Clearly, buyers are in control. I would like a retest to this daily view up at some point today to try to find my longs off of. But we've seen plenty of these days before where it just drifts, especially when you have this strong pre-market and then the open comes in just as strong with all buyers. Yes, I would like to see a deeper pullback on the 15-minute, but with this many buyers showing their hand here at the open, cannot ignore it and just let it go by. It's worth the risk to find out. Are we just going to drift today and move higher? And yes, we did, but I got out at 1R here, as you can see. The quicker it moves up, 10, 15 minutes, I'm out. Can it go higher today? Sure. Will it go higher today? Probably. I do not care. Stack these winning days. I just made a video about my previous weeks of trading, having the best week I've had in quite a time of making $5,500 on my top 1 accounts on just 1 to 2 trades per day. I think only maybe 2 of the days was more than 1. But let's look at the other ideas that you could have played today because it wasn't just raining down winning trades or easy trades for that matter. But I think there are good lessons in it of how to read the price action, right? So this is the aftermath of my longs. This is back on ES. I've seen that nice strong rip higher. Maybe it is a drifting day because there she goes. Never really a deep pullback. Now again, if you haven't seen Futures 2.0, it's on ASFX TV here where I teach the whole strategy and then I trade it live on the streams. You'll see that I go over like what is a pullback to me? What do I define as a pullback that I want to take and what I like to trade? It's not going to be this one back here, right? It's just too small for my liking. Not a lot of structure to build off of, right? There's even a small pullback back here that would have won, right? If you can catch a little bit of that drift higher. But normally those small ones don't sustain. I'm looking for a deeper pullback. The deeper, the better. I get a bigger base, better structure to put a stop loss at. And that's what we get here. Notice that that's not really a strong break of high day view up, so we're not in. But then you do get a pretty substantial pullback relative to what we've had today. Maybe 10:30 to 11:20. So let's just call it an hour pullback. Buyers are finally stepping back in. Now, it's not off New York VWAP. Definitely not. But it is a decent pullback. Definitely bullish today. If this goes higher, would I be surprised? Not really, right? So you might have found yourself getting into this long, and you can't hate it. The one lesson for sure is going to be you don't have to size up to the max because you're not quite off a key level. It is a little bit high, but of course it could keep going higher. But the worst thing to do would be putting a stop loss at current structure. Again, I talk about that in detail in the course because this is the worst place to put a stop loss, hugging it at that current structure. Because what probably happens is you get stopped out, see it start to come back up, well, you're going to just get right back in. And then what happens? You take another loss. So you're really taking 2 losses on one idea, and that's what we don't want, because that could quickly lead to a third idea and a fourth idea, and look at it now, you're tilting, right? So if we can give it that space, not at current structure here, previous structure to the left, it gives you a little bit more wiggle room to allow it to breathe, because maybe this did hold and come back up as a higher high. You'd still want to be in that move, right? And it's also just the most obvious stop loss placement that they're going to get topped quite often, because all the amateurs that are long in it have a tight stop loss there, right? So that's lesson number 1. But let's go to the next trade, where maybe we're playing the bounce play, because now we are off the key level of New York VWAP. I really do like the level that we're trading off of here. Same thing, the trend is definitely bullish. I know I want to buy it. This is the key level. I get a great stop loss well below New York VWAP. You're just not buying it on a break of high day VWAP, right? Clearly, we're buying it below that purple VWAP from the higher day. So a couple of things would be, we just failed 1 time, 2, 3, maybe even a 4th back here. Buyers couldn't take that high day VWAP. Again, not the end of the world. They, of course, could take it now and win. But we do have to keep in the back of our mind that buyers weren't able to take it. Sellers just kept stepping in there and sending us lower. But we are defending this New York really well, so I can't hate the trade at all. It's worth the risk again. I think it's a solid long off a key level. And you're trading, like I was saying to the previous trades at the open, to get your 1R, you're just trading back to the high of day. You don't need it to be a strong bullish trending day to ask for new highs in order to make money out of this, because you're getting such a nice low buy price at that New York VWAP. So again, not a bad trade. Maybe you could even talk about this one later on. It finally does break the high day VWAP. Again, can't carry that momentum for a new high day. Comes back behind my camera and loses again. Now, looking at it without being hindsight bias, one thing you could definitely want to look at, I should try to find some markups to make it a little bit more clear, but whatever. Noticing all these failed breaks of high day like I was mentioning, what else do we also have within that? Well, we're making lower highs and lower lows, right? Not on the day, just in this short-term trend. There's no higher low coming in at any moment that if this could have built a higher low, then a break of it, then maybe we are starting to turn back bullish. But as of right now, we're just falling lower highs and lower lows. So we're kind of trying to long short-term bearish structure. So let me clear these drawings and try to explain that one more time, of how just every time it makes a lower low. Where if we can see it start to turn, imagine a V, we're still creating that left side of the V. Where if we can start to build some higher lows, even just a small one, we can maybe be getting the right side of that V and turning back bullish. So make sure you keep that in note when you are looking at, well, what is price action doing, right? Yes, we're holding the VWAP. Yes, today is bullish overall, but is structure starting to turn back bullish, or sellers still making new lower lows? And I think that's how you could probably avoid, especially this later one, because it is a nice break and finally a break of it. But just looking back at all of this, it's like this is still falling. So if this were to fall again, would I be surprised? Not really, because it's not like you're turning back bullish. Let's go to another markup here. Even on my trade, right? Imagine I'm making higher lows on my long now. So I'm with the structure. I'm in my favor, not of just the VWAP, but also with the structure. I want to be trading with higher highs and higher lows, not lower highs and lower lows continually falling against me, right? I mean, you could even just see it. And this one's pretty absurd. It's all just a channel moving lower. So if we can get that to start to turn, I think the longs would have came back into play and be a little bit more high probability. So hopefully you can get induced into these longs later on in the afternoon and not see the follow through. But again, I think they're great lessons to mark up. Notice how the failed breaks of high day VWAP really start to add up, kind of giving you a hint that buyers left the building. So maybe you don't love the longs later on. And even just the lesson of a tight stop loss versus giving it some space. And the most important one, if we can make our money in the morning. I was done by 10:15, right, at the latest, right? This is 10:15, and I was out of my trade. So by 10:20, 10 o'clock maybe, I'm done. I'm up on my top 1 accounts. I have them on copy trade to the Project X, so I really don't need a lot of trades today. One and done. Come back tomorrow, try to capitalize on the trend again, and just rinse and repeat for a whole month. If you go back to my TradeZella here, like I said, I made a whole video about my, not the month, but the week I had last week. If you zoom in one trade, one trade, one trade, it was only on Thursday and Friday, and I had 2 winning trades on Friday. That's less is more. Stack it up to a copied account, right? I didn't make $1,000 per account, maybe 300, but cop it to 3 50K top 1 futures accounts. We're in the driver's seat when you stack those up over time. So if I can make my money like this when the trend is clear, I don't need to be trying to force the buyers in later on in the afternoon if it doesn't want to be. This is actually another lesson. I didn't even know I had this markup open. This would be the opposite of, notice how we are starting to make higher lows on the bottom again. So sellers aren't making those lower highs and lower lows like we were just pointing out on the other markup. You're starting to create that right side, building back bullish. And that's probably why buyers stepped in and continued to move in a little bit more, although they didn't just blast for a new high a day. Structure was starting to turn back more bullish on the bottom compared to just lower highs and lower lows. So make sure you note those differences. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions on top one, the streams, all that good stuff. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. One last thing you can look at are the edge reports. There was also that in play today because there's a lesson that I don't think too many people got sucked into, but you never know. Let's turn it on real quick. You can look at the initial balance. It's the red line here, the first hour of the day. Let's just clear all these drawings. Then notice how we took out the top here. When we break the initial balance high, we probably only want to break one side. So hopefully no one got induced into the shorts expecting a full-on reversal for a new high or new low of day. So it's really not likely that we make a new low of day and break the bottom as well. So that should keep you looking for longs. The longs just didn't have the gas to really move higher. So it's kind of a tricky day that if you're going to short it, you want to be as close to the view up as possible. But again, not my favorite play. If anything, I would have rather you play the midnight report, the ICT opening retracement. On the edge reports, we'll take a look at it in a second. We open above it. To do that, I just go to the 15-minute real quick, and I draw that line of where did midnight open up at? 00 Eastern time. I draw a line. Now I go over to my 1 minute, and there it is, right? We opened above it. How much percent? Just draw it out. 0.47%. So now let's go over to Edgeful. On the ICT opening retracement report, in the past year of that 0.46 or 48, whatever I said, only 38% of the time has it came all the way back down and retraced it. But notice how when we open below it that distance, there's still a pretty good chance we can move higher and engage that price because the trend is more so bullish. But when we open above it, it's very likely we just keep on continuing higher above it. So coming into the open here, above it, that's why I'm comfortable taking the long up here because, yeah, we probably don't come down and turn into a bearish day. The edge report says so. The VWAP says we go higher. 15 minutes says we go higher. It makes it easy to believe in the longs even more and not be on the wrong side of anything looking for the wrong direction. So make sure you guys check that out. The link for that's always down below. But like I said, less is more. Follow the rules. I'll see you guys on the charts tomorrow morning.